Sometimes what you really need is some space to decompress. She-Hulk, episode 7? I think it's 7. I'm following too many things episode by episode. And anyways, latest episode of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. And okay, so a little bit of an odd experience watching this one. Because I didn't enjoy a lot of the process of actually watching it. Once I got to the end, I was able to look back on it and appreciate it a heck of a lot more. Here's what I mean by that. As it was going, I saw so many opportunities for it to do something that I would have hated, and I don't trust this show enough to not do those things that I was just sitting back and going, oh, I can't wait to see how they subvert that. Instead, I was going, oh God, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And it made the actual viewing not the most pleasant thing in the world. But they pretty much didn't do any of the things that I was deathly afraid they were going to do. And so once it was done and I knew I was in the clear, I was like, oh, well, okay then. So for me personally, this is an episode that's actually pretty dang good in hindsight, but wasn't fun in the moment, which is such a weird experience. I suppose I should explain a little bit what I mean by things like I was so afraid it was going to do certain things. So there was basically a sequence of them. Actually, initially, right off the bat, with just the previously on, I was like, oh, great, you've like spoiled half the episode, because you wouldn't be putting this much emphasis on Josh. He's not sticking around. Why would he stick around? Well, probably because he is with the whatever group that hates Jen and is trying to get her blood, and so he's trying to trick her. Now, that did ultimately pan out, but that came at the end of avoiding all the other stuff that I was afraid of. So I actually didn't mind when that hit. Here was what I was afraid of initially. So he ghosts her. What I was afraid of was that it was going to turn out that the ghosting her and her getting kind of irrational about it was somehow a trap. Let me back up. I say irrational. That's the wrong term. But like, it would have leaned into the idea that this guy knew a woman's mind so well that he could basically emotionally manipulate her into doing exactly what he wanted. And that's something I would have been really conflicted about if they'd done it. Because on the one hand, yes, there are absolutely guys out there who do that, or at least try to do that. That's what the entire pickup artistry community was about. I say was. It's probably still around, but it's largely dropped off at this point. But that sort of thing does exist. And while if they had done this, which again they didn't, I would have appreciated insofar as kind of a victim's eye view of what that looks like. But at the same time, it kind of validates what those sorts of people do and say and sell, that they have hacked women's brains. So I was really afraid that it was going to turn out the entire ghosting thing was an emotional manipulation. It wasn't. Turns out at the end, he ghosted her because he already got what he needed. He wasn't trying to manipulate her with that. It's just a fallout of him not needing to be around her anymore because he got what he came for. So that ended up ultimately being relief. But that idea that she had somehow been tricked and manipulated into the situation that she was in nagged at me through pretty much the whole thing. So the other point at which I got really, really nervous was when she was in the group therapy and the guy who had actually attacked her before, I'll come back to him because that was a really clever joke. I'll come back to that. But he, was all like, maybe a lot of people in this group like Jen, maybe you could be Jen with us. And she goes from being She-Hulk to being Jen. And I was just thinking, and they're going to trank her, they're going to jump her or something because she's more vulnerable now. And I'm going to be so pissed off because it is undermining the validity of group therapy and any kind of mental health work, and reemphasizes this idea that it's not real or it's not helpful or it's a manipulation or whatever. But then it didn't do that. Like, I was terrified that it was about to do that and do something that pop culture in general and superheroes in specific have a really bad history of doing, which is to equate emotional help and or therapy with either weakness or manipulative evil. And it did neither of those things. And so ultimately, I was super relieved. Those are the kind of the two main instances, but that kind of general vibe of, oh God, they're going to do something I hate. And then they didn't do it. Oh, that was nice. Because like I said, my feelings on the show have been very mixed up to this point. If that had not been the case, I probably would have gone through this with more confidence that they weren't going to do these things. But I didn't have that trust. And it's one of those cases where I'm really glad to be proven wrong. They knew what they were doing with this one, definitely. And I like all the performances. I'm really enjoying Tim Roth as this chilled out kind of dude just trying to ground everybody. The characters that we meet at the retreat are fun and outlandish and just enjoyable. I don't need them to come back, but for the purposes of this, it's good. And also it does the kind of thing I want the show to do more, which is to lean into superhero world stuff put in a non-superhero context. Now, primarily up to this point, I've been saying I want that more in the legal stuff. Here, this still gives me effectively what I want, which is to take people with powers and you know, with associations with this world and put them in a setting that has nothing to do with the normal good guys versus bad guys punch out, which is a therapy session. That's what I want more of. If you're not going to give it to me in a courtroom, I will take this, because this, as far as the general feel of it, is what I want. So yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. Again, largely in hindsight, looking back on the characters and knowing that they aren't going to do anything that's going to make me go, ugh! Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good with it. And oh, I said I was going to come back to the guy who had attacked her before. So this was actually kind of funny. So she's walking around a little bit before she runs into him. She's walking around the compound trying to get signal. And my thinking at the time is, how are they not taking advantage of the fourth wall breaks right now? How do you not have her look to camera and go, are they seriously going to stick me in a bottle episode at this freaking retreat? You know, something like that. I'm like, how do you not? How is that right in front of you? And how do you miss that opportunity? So I was getting frustrated because I've talked before, I kind of want more clever stuff with the fourth wall breaks other than just takes to the audience. This is the best fourth wall break yet, because when she sees this guy, she's like, oh, this guy? And I'm sitting there as an audience member going, wait, who is he? And then she goes, they're not even going to recognize that guy. Was he even in the previously on? Yep. Screw it, do it again. And that is the exact kind of fourth wall break I want, because it's calling on something unique to the medium. So it's not just, hey, the audience, hey, here's this thing. Like, no, it's commentating on the specifics of the medium of television, because previously ons are very much a TV staple at this point, especially with how serialized these shows are. And that is exactly what I've wanted, because I've talked before about how when She-Hulk did fourth wall breaks and something like the Sensational She-Hulk, they were very much about commenting on the medium of comics and doing fourth wall breaks. Sometimes, yes, just to take to the audience, but often just about things that you wouldn't bring that up in any other medium. And this is doing that, and it was so good, especially as like a release of tension, because as I said, I'd been sitting there being like, you are missing these opportunities for decent fourth wall breaks, and then they do the best one they've done. I'm like, okay, nope, okay. So yeah, you were right to miss the opportunity earlier, because it would have come too close to this and it would have diminished the power and impact of that. And that was chef's freaking kiss for that fourth wall break. That was perfect. That was exactly what I wanted. And this, I think, easily at this point is my favorite episode of this show so far. We'll see if that maintains. If it can, then that'll mean that this was a show that started out kind of rocky but found its footing by the end of its first season, which I'll be totally fine with. What I'm going to be nervous about is the next episode I'm going to end up not liking all that much, which would put me in a situation of, oh, it's a show that's frequently rocky, but is occasionally great. And that is almost one of the most frustrating things to try and watch, is to watch something that you can't trust to even be good, but you watch anyway because sometimes It's great, just not reliably. That is some of the most frustrating viewing that you will ever have. And I hope She-Hulk is not that. I'm hoping that the next couple of episodes, which I think we've got 2 more, and I think we're done for the season. I'm really hoping that they are as solid and as well constructed and as avoiding of all the pitfalls and as clever as this one is. Because if they are, this just means the thing, Rocky, upward trajectory. And I'm on board. So please, please let the next 2 also be good. Please don't let this be the one random standout that would cause me to go through another entire season being really unsure how much of it I'm going to like just because I suspect I might love at least one. Oh, okay. Regardless of my nerves about what comes next, this is real good. She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, episode 7. I'm pretty sure I got that right. Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon's what pays the bills and allows me to do this as my living. Any assistance you can give, especially right now, because like things are kind of tight, I'm not going to lie, it would be a massive help. But even if you can't, like, share, subscribe, do help out this channel, and I appreciate that as well. Don't sweat it too much ultimately, because we take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. Time to give my thanks to my highest supporting patrons. That would include Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfullah, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Melinda Walters, Emu Delkey, Theotha Boyd, Becky Sparks, Fernabi Likes the Poodle, Zach, Idolin, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Adam RDL Taylor, Shane Ross, Shaylee Gourlay, Brendan LaRose, and TT. If you want your name said while these guys try and distract me, consider looking at the rewards of my Patreon.